Before I move on to the next topic, let's clean this folder up a little bit because the blueprints folder, as you can imagine, is going to be rather large. And the more organized we are, the better. Right click on the blueprints folder and select new folder. We're going to call this core, and this is going to hold all of our really important blueprints, such as the game mode, move here, the hero, move here, the base character, move here. Our enemy character is going to have his own set of variables, which will be exclusive to all enemies. So this is going to be put in a new folder called enemies. And then if you have different enemies, you could divide them into subfolders within that. But let's change this to base enemy. Pressing F2 is a shortcut to rename things. I'm going to call this base enemy and drag that into the enemies folder. Move here. Good stuff. And to further advance our understanding of parent classes, we're going to create one more folder, and we're going to call this one weapons. Now these weapons won't be working straight away. They won't be immediately active. This is again the very beginning, and I'm trying to explain how parent classes work primarily, and we'll also jump into variables as well, again making sure that we're getting those variables happening. So don't get excited just yet. We will have these weapons up working, but for now this is more educational, but everything here is laying the groundwork for how to make these weapons in the future. Double click on weapons, right click in the weapons folder, and we're going to create a blueprint class. Now, a weapon does not require any movement controlled from the character. It does not require a character blueprint class. It's not going to run on its own two legs, so it doesn't even need to be a pawn. We're going to make this an actor. And we're going to call this B_base weapon. And as you can imagine, this is going to be the parent class for all of our weapons. Every single value that they have in common will be in the base weapon class, so we don't have to replicate it per weapon. When I designed these in my own game, I ended up with 15 variables, which translated across every weapon. And hopefully we'll get to the same point here where we have a really jam-packed, detailed weapon. As you can imagine, when the base weapon is that detailed, creating a new weapon is much easier. Great for scalability if you want to make the next Borderlands with 1 billion or however many Borderlands has these days. Double click on base weapon. The very first thing a weapon will have as far as variables are concerned is ammunition. Let's go over to the variables tab here. You can see that we have a default scene root. That is because this is one of the components which comes with any actor class. Click on the plus sign. We're going to call this one ammo actual. The naming schemes will start making sense as we get further on, but we're going to start with this, and once you see this long list of variables, then it will all make sense. And this time, we're going to select integer, a numerical value without a decimal place, whole numbers only. You will never have half a bullet unless you have a very strange gun. If you have a very strange gun, then feel free to make a float value for a bullet. But conventional bullets, you'll never have half a bullet. So integer is perfect. It also means if, say, we wanted to give a percentage of our ammo away, or someone was going to take a percentage of our ammo away, that percentage would be rounded up or down to the nearest whole number, meaning we'll never end up with half a bullet. Now that that's an integer, hit compile and save. Next up, we're going to add another variable. You can see here that whatever variable type I added last will be the variable type defaulted for the newest variable, which is great because the next one we want an integer. We're going to call this ammo capacity. Again, no spaces, capitalization. So these are values that every single weapon will have. Every single weapon will have how many bullets it currently has, being ammo actual, and how many it can possibly hold. And like health, we will use these two variables off each other. We will figure out, okay, if we're reloading, then we only want to put the capacity of our bullets in, so it will never exceed that. Let's hit compile and save, and our base weapon is good for now, specifically for now. Let's go back over to test. We're going to right click on the base weapon and create a child blueprint class. We're going to call this one weapon underscore assault rifle. Now here is an example of where you might diverge in your naming schemes. To keep everything the same, so when I type in weapon, I can see everything named correctly. I'm going to change the name of my first blueprint class to weapon underscore base, meaning that all of my weapons have the same naming format. Whether that's important to you is entirely up to you, but I would present this case to you. If you want to build a game with multiple people, the easier your folder structures are to understand and the easier your naming structures are to understand, the better this will all go. Because if we scroll over here, we can see that we know what this is by the color, by the fact that it says blueprint class, by the fact that it's in the blueprints folder, all of that great stuff. And if we double click on here and we go up to the top right, we can actually see our parent actor or our parent class. If someone was really confused, they could go and see that this is an actor right up here. Just like our hero character, when I go to the event graph here and I right click and type in ammo, you can see there's ammo actual and ammo capacity. I have getters and setters, which is great. So we're going to compile and save, even though we didn't change anything. Now here's another thing that you might want to take note of. When you create a parent class and a child class, you can see here that our event begin play, our event actor begin overlap, and our event tick now have extra nodes next to them compared to our weapon base. So weapon base over here has these 3 nodes, but our child class has an additional node. What this node does essentially, if I had a piece of script here, let's say I had a print string. I'm not going to plug it in because we're not going to use it, but as an example, if I was to plug in this event begin play into this print string, but then I've called the child actor into the world, being I'm never going to use weapon base, I'm going to use weapon assault rifle. The first thing it's going to do with this node here is fire whatever was on the event begin play of the parent. So if I had some important script or some script which was something that every weapon had in common, then that could be written and fired once in my weapon base, and then it would be fired on every child weapon. The same with the event actor begin overlap and the event tick. Now, even though I'm not going to use the begin overlap or tick, I'm going to leave them here just in case I do later on, because plugging them in here is one thing, remembering to bring them back and plug them in here is another. So in child actors, it's normally a good idea to just leave your active begin overlap and event tick out of the way and leave it there just in case you do use it. So let's create another few weapons. We're going to right click on weapon base, create child blueprint class, and we're going to call this pistol. I'm going with a simple weapon set here, loosely off the original Halo. So let's create child blueprint class again. We're going to call this one shotgun. You can call these anything you like. We're going to do another one. We're going to call this sniper rifle. And one more. We're going to call this rocket launcher. And there it is. 5 weapons and a base, and they already have their variables for ammo and for their capacity. Speaking of which, let's go in and change them now. When you have a child class, the default values will appear when you select here, weapon _ assault rifle self, in the top left corner. Here we can see under the category default, these are the variables that came over from the parent class. Now, when I start off with my assault rifle, I'm going to give it, 30 bullets, which means it would have a capacity of 30. That capacity is specifically the magazine. We'll work on ammo storage later. Compile and save. That hasn't changed the variables in the parent. Again, just trying to drill that in. But it also hasn't changed the variables in its brothers and sisters. Let's close these, get them out of the way. So if I went over to pistol, and let's say, let's give this pistol 20 bullets. I know it's not necessarily realistic, but hey, could be futuristic. There we are, 20, 20. Let's give our shotgun 10 bullets, thereabouts. We'll give our sniper rifle 5. And we'll give our rocket launcher 1. And you can see there, I created these two variables once each, but by creating a child class, I was able to give those variables individual values. And still, my ammo actual and ammo capacity has not been changed. Let's get rid of this print string because we're not going to use it. So there it is, a little more in-depth into child blueprint classes and an idea of the weapons we'll be creating later on.